Jacob Stimmel, and I'm from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. I was looking for a house, and Jason, when I talked to him, it seemed like he knew a lot about what he was talking about, and he was a big help with anything I ever needed. It's my first time buying a house, so I didn't know what I was getting into. It was a good experience. I closed actually a week earlier than planned. Anytime I needed help with anything or had any questions, he'd answer right away and help me learn a lot too. I would gladly recommend anybody. Y'all are a big help, and if I ever go to buy a house again, I'd go with y'all again. My name is Jacob Stimmel, and I got into my first home with the team at SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
I am absolutely fired up today. My World recording day, Conrad. We're just coming off a hot weekend, hunka burning love and suspicious minds and all kind of Elvis chatter. Our man Dave Silva went and saw it in IMAX, but me and you both know there's the story behind the story behind the story. A little cold here in Nash Vegas. Man, oh man, it is actually freezing. But Conrad, good, man. Life is good. Busy. But all good, man. How are you doing, pal? I hadn't seen you in 12 hours.
I'm good, man. Yeah, we're joking about not seeing each other in a little while. But yesterday, you and I spent almost the entire day together, and we've been working on some things behind the scenes, and I think our crack producer Dave Silva may have a little behind the scenes photo here, there, yon. And stay tuned, we're going to have some fun stuff coming your way right here on My World. If you haven't already, go to our YouTube page, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. You don't want to miss some really fun stuff that we've got coming. Jeff, I got to tell you, there were 2 surprises, 3 surprises, maybe 4 surprises yesterday that I was not expecting. I can't wait for us to be able to reveal this.
I'm serious. I mean, and I've shared this several times in my some sayings. I think people, but I just don't believe in coincidences, only convergences. And the timing of that one thing that was revealed, the date of it, how it coincided with the passing of my father, and the voicemail, I'm not giving away, Conrad, but just how it all lined up, and what you were working on that I had no clue about, and this third party obviously had no clue about, and had our conversation, Conrad, just me, you, and the crew on the phone on Friday, and you're like, what? Can you tell me that again? I don't know, Conrad. It's fun. I am very, very, I don't think I've been this jazzed up about My World. Conrad, in a while. We kind of ebbed and flowed, and look, it's always kind of a new adventure, but I am really, I'm just fired up about it, man. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the Queen is fired up. She was, she's always, Jeff and Conrad, you go do your thing, go up your 4 or 5 steps and get in your office and record. And she's been engaged and inspired. And I kind of laid out a couple of things that we did over the weekend. And anyway, it's going to be fun, man. I all kidding aside, very excited about what's to come. And we'll keep chopping it up and talking AEW and all things wrestling and all kind of stuff like that. But we're going to really pull the layers of the onion back, as we like to say.
Well, I'm excited for what's to come here on My World. I want to encourage you to go find us on YouTube. That's myworldpod.com. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming your way. Unfortunately, I want to get some bad news out of the way at the top of the show, Jeff. A big member of the WWE legacy, at least behind the scenes, passed away. I'm, of course, talking about Kerwin Silfies, a name that was synonymous with the WWE from, gosh, I guess in at least 1985 until 2020. So you're talking about, a 35-year career being on the innermost circle of WWE. Think about that. From WrestleMania to the pandemic. I don't mean like a WrestleMania. I mean the WrestleMania to the pandemic. He's one of the unsung heroes, I think, in the history of WWE, Jeff. But you and I have not spent much time talking about Mr. Silfies. What can you tell us about Kerwin for those of us who never really got a chance to know him?
And you know, I mean, I think in his passing, like so many times, it just happens that you know, people get their flowers and there's so many nice things. But you know, why he's around and we're all around and doing it all this. He's just I mean, maybe at the very top of the list, the unsung heroes in that picture that that Silva just pulled up. It made me pull it up for those watching. That there's a little to kind of get inside what a production truck, just kind of how things are kind of disseminated, if you will. So on the far left is Kevin Dunn. He's the producer, and you know, you can call him executive producer, but you know, line producer. But anyway, when the show's going on, he's trafficking. This segment's coming up. We're going to go backstage. He's talking to on comms just about everybody. The headsets, everybody hears about it. Kerwin's in the middle. The guy on the right is the one who literally is like playing a piano. And if it's a 7 camera, a 9 camera, I mean, you know, the big productions, 20 cameras and all this kind of stuff. But Kevin is traffic cop and all things, but Kerwin's seat is the one who sits there and he has the cadence and he'll call out, you know, like ready 3. And that's like telling the position of the third cameraman, get ready, I'm taking your shot. So in advance, Kerwin is seeing the show visually and how we're going to do this. And when you look at the very tip top of all production, and I'm talking about Super Bowls, Game 7 of the World Series, and all different kind of sporting events. And then obviously back in the day, wrestling was, oh, that's professional wrestling. But you talking about now the music world, the sporting world, the racing world, so many different people, and they'll come up and tell you. I mean, I've had a number of people through the years come up and said, yeah, I saw us on wrestling and we started shooting our sport this way or that way. Kerwin's the guy, his position was called the director, that he saw the show in his mind advance to certain things, but then all of a sudden you're calling a wrestling match and he can't sit in the dressing room with 8 or 10 matches. But, you know, the coaches do it, the producers are doing that. But Kerwin's the one who would have to anticipate and capture everything. Guys, I just can't impress upon you how talented and skilled a man Kerwin in that position. It's kind of amazing for me to when I first got there, Conrad, I was just like, okay, this is a whole nother level. And what is so cool, and me and Kerwin had a cool relationship because it was, you know, 1993, and I go to work for those guys and Vince and me, and we get on the phone, and my dad was obviously a part of that. But then Vince decides to send, hey pal, you know, but anyway, we're going to send Bruce and Kerwin. And so I didn't really understand those 12 vignettes that we shot introducing the Double J character. I mean, I was happy, but I'm a kid not really wrapping my head around it. But Bruce, great producer, we've talked about all that, you know, the verbiage and I'll call it the creative delivery, but framing shots and looking at shots and, hey, we're going to go outside of Tootsie's and the Country Music Hall of Fame, and hey Jeff, why don't we get in front of Grand Ole Opry, whatever it is. Kerwin and Vision, he came down, Vince sent him down to do that, and I was honored. More so as time went on, I'm like, Kerwin in 93 is producing, directing Raw and Superstars and Challenge and the cadence that we kept back then. And so in Kerwin's, I'll call it supposed to be off days, Vince sent him down to produce the vignettes. I say all that to say that's when our bond started. That's when our relationship started, and all through the years. And I can remember coming back to WWE. I got to see Kerwin, and you know, we had a running joke of a one of a kind. Well, everything became one of a kind, but Kerwin's special man. But I say this as a fan of his work, a special talent, man. And I just don't think, and there's others, but I don't think Kerwin got his flowers enough. for the success of WWE production. He's special. I mean, he holds a special place in the ascent of modern professional wrestling and how it's produced and directed.
Shout out to Kerwin Silfies. I know he was a special person who made an impression on you as a wrestling fan, whether you know it or not. He was one of the pieces of the secret sauce for Vince McMahon's success for so many years. Jeff, we fans, we hear a lot about politics and wrestling, but usually when we hear about that, it's amongst the talent. Do politics exist in production in wrestling, Jeff?
Oh boy, Conrad. Man, I am going to sound like a broken record, but I have to, because I have to always go back to my set point. My grandmother might have been the first, my dad or grandmother, but anyway, they enlightened me to this. And as time went on, Conrad, it is almost like you can't unsee it. Once you know, in that in life. But okay, we're going to take professional wrestling. The main event guys, who are they most politically trying to joust with? Other main event guys. The underneath guys, who are they most trying to politically joust with? The other opening guys. Referees. You can have 3, 5, 7, 9 referees. You can just bet your sweet ass that the top referee is going to get knocked by the others somehow, some way. Passive aggressive, kind of a backhanded compliment, whatever it may be. It goes the same with cameramen. It goes the same with people in the truck. It goes the same with post-production. There's always, oh, man, did you see what that guy did? I really like him, but yeah, I mean, he is a great guy. I mean, his wife is they're good folks, and the kids, oh, have you seen the kids? But I mean, what the hell was he doing during Conrad? It exists everywhere. Everywhere. Yes. I gave you a long-winded answer, but absolutely it does.
Did you ever hear politically, why Kerwin left? I've heard through the years, and again, I wasn't there. I don't know. But I've heard through the years that he may have been lumped in with a lot of other guys, not unlike, the former ring announcer and the longtime referee, Mike Chioda. Like, there were guys, like I was referencing Tony Chimmel, but guys who had been around a long time, like Kerwin, like Chioda, like Chimmel, and those guys seemingly got their walking papers around the same time. Do you think that was, with the benefit of hindsight, was that just business, or was that political in your opinion?
Well, political is just business in my opinion. It absolutely. Hey, little regime change. And again, when you kind of get in there and finance obviously gets in there. Hey, man, okay, so he gets a 3% raise, whatever it is. And hey, can I replace him? And it's the old middle manager. And, I often hear the story. It just happens. My dad, one of the reasons that he got out of the corporate world as a young, late 27, 28-year-old is he came into work one day and he was going to get promoted, not way up, but two or three levels up. And basically he was replacing his boss, and his boss was like 43, 44 years old, wife, several kids, and just got let go. Why'd he get let go? Oh, it makes financial sense for the company. So yeah, I think when folks get, so there's a financial kind of quote unquote budget cuts, but also when you got to put a new coat of paint on, it's real easy to say, okay, we've got to get some different blood in here. It doesn't have to be younger blood, just different blood, and casualties happen all the time. So I never ever heard, Conrad, why. And look, a guy that's maybe there 10 years, 15 years, okay, maybe it's time for him to move on. When you're kind of a pioneer, you just said 85 is when he started?
Yeah, he was there from 85 to 2020.
WrestleMania. Wrap that around your head. Like the evolution of the product. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you don't need new blood, but that is just so
Hogan to Roman. Let me just say it.
yeah, think about that. Yeah. And lots of success, but look at how the product grew. I just think that the nucleus of WWE television production, look, they don't bat 1,000, but man, oh man, if you look at that, comparatively speaking, I remember my NASCAR buddies. I'd go in the truck and they got 43 cars and all this kind of stuff. And when you got to shoot Daytona 500 or even Bristol, a smaller track, you've got so many cameras and looks and this and that. And those guys, many have told me, yep, we steal this in the big stadium shows from, WWE professional wrestling, top TV production. Believe me, folks, it is watched with a keen eye around the world.
Well, something we've been watching a little bit in the new year is our caffeine intake, and Jeff has been trying something new. Let's hear about Mudwater.
Hey, folks. No, I'm not Conrad. This is Double J, Jeff Jarrett, the last outlaw. I got one question for you. Are you one of those people who loves coffee, the taste, the smell, the whole ritual, but the caffeine sends you straight into an anxiety spiral? Because same here. I love trying new coffee shops and fun seasonal drinks, but one full cup and suddenly my heart is sprinting and my brain is running in 5 different directions all at once. That's why Mudwater, new low-calf coffee, has been such a relief. It's made with organic Arabic coffee beans, L-theanine, and functional mushrooms like lion's mane and cordyceps. So you still get that rich, full-bodied taste coffee lovers like me crave, but with only 45 milligrams of caffeine, enough to feel awake and dialed in without the jitters, the crash, and those emotional roller coasters. And if you want something even gentler, the original blend is still there for you, but the coffee alternative made with cacao, chai, turmeric, and functional mushrooms, warm, grounding, and perfect for days when you want energy without the buzz. But for real coffee lovers who just can't handle that heavy caffeine anymore, this new blend hits the sweet spot. Real coffee taste, calmer energy, no spiraling thoughts, because satisfying that coffee craving shouldn't wreck the rest of your day. But you know what the best part about it is? Yes, there are some caffeine-free blends available, but the very best part of Mudwater is it provides, like I need often in the late afternoon, sustained energy. That's right. It provides sustained energy without the spikes and crash of traditional coffee. So here we go, guys. Ready to make that switch to cleaner energy? Head to mudwater.com. That's MUDWTR.com. That's MUDWTR.com and grab your starter kit today. Right now, our listeners right here on My World get an exclusive deal up to 43% off your entire order. Yes, folks, you heard that right. Up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping and a free rechargeable frother when you use my code, My World. That's right. The code's My World. That's right. Up to 43% off with code My World at MUDWTR.com. MUDWTR.com. After your purchase, they'll ask you how you found them and just give them, that's right, me and Connie an old shout out. Please show your support and let them know My World sent you.
So, Jeff, I'm excited for us to catch up and talk about all the news in wrestling this week. We greatly appreciate our live studio audience from ringclassics.com. And, of course, we're just a few months away from us getting together. It's going to be a big celebration at the end of May. Of course, we celebrated the history of Atlanta and Jim Crockett Promotions, and more specifically, WCW at the end of January. But the end of May, TNA is on deck. And when I think about Nashville, I think about TNA. And a lot of times when you think about major pay-per-view towns, like major PLE towns, you think about all the support that happens in and around that event. We know that, for years and years, there's been watch parties that were set up, and maybe Bully Ray and the gang from Busted Open would be there. Maybe Kevin Nash would be our master of ceremonies. If you were hoping to do that for Elimination Chamber in Chicago, you are out of luck. Fightful is reporting that there is a blackout, as it's called. So just like we've heard in regards to WrestleMania, it feels like there's going to be a blackout in the Chicagoland area. So there won't be any watch-alongs or big parties at any sort of bars or restaurants or nothing like that. They're going to have to go grab a ticket. Now, Meltzer's sources are claiming that these blackouts are due to low ticket sales. I guess evidently what WWE and TKO are saying there is they want people to experience the live events no matter what. Now, of course, you can still watch at home if you have the right ESPN packages, or if you're international, of course, you can check it out on Netflix, I believe. But what do you make of this? I mean, I was used to this back when, respectfully, Alabama was not very good at college football. We had blackouts all the time. You know, when the Falcons were really struggling or the Titans were really struggling way back when, we had blackouts all the time. But these days, I don't know. This feels a little weird. What do you make of this?
All right. So I want to make sure you're always giving me the scoop. Elimination Chamber in Chicago. You cannot go watch it in a bar or Dave and Buster's.
You're not going to be able to watch it in public unless you're at the arena. You can watch it at your house. You can watch it on your tablet. But if you want to see the show in Chicago, better get your butt to the arena.
They want individual streams. It's like, and you know, there's those, you know, DirecTV, Johan. There's all kind of different vendors.
Yeah, Johan cannot carry the show in Chicago.
Okay.
I don't know another way to say it. You can't watch that. That doesn't exist.
Okay. So as TKO and Joe got sideways on numbers and said, okay, you're out of business. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, hypothetically speaking, are they saying we want individual streams? We do not want folks where we get counted for one stream and they don't count 300 or 500 or whatever capacity is. That because in Elimination Chamber sold out or close to it?
No.
Wait, that's this weekend.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
It's not sold out.
You are correct, sir.
That's interesting. Okay. I wasn't aware of that. Okay. Well, now, okay. God, you're too much. Well, do they, and I'm sure they won't say it publicly, but do they have kind of a mandate from the tip top? And unless it sells out, we are going to maximize our profits. And these third parties, when we sell it, that don't maximize. So we got to get we got to get it sold out. Interesting, Conrad. Very, very interesting. What do you make of it, pal?
That was my question to you, bud. What do you think?
Well, I'm processing this real time and making.
Let me tell you right now. If you go over to Amazon, not Amazon, but Ticketmaster,
okay,
you'll see the cheapest, most affordable ticket before they add fees is section 328, row 8. That's real high up there.
Well, wait,
$261.
There you go. Okay.
Now, if you want to sit on the floor, maybe you'd even like to be kind of close. You know, you'd be looking at around $5,178.75.
Shut up.
Now, if you wanted to sit absolute front row,
don't you jump over that. Did you say 5,000 for a floor seat?
Yes, sir. If you'd like to be front row, you can do that still. They have front row seats are available for Elimination Chamber this weekend for $5,178 before fees. Now, if you'd like to, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, shit, let's just take the whole family. And in radio, they used to call that like a family 4-pack. Well, before fees, you can do that for just $20,715.40. Now, that's just to sit front row. That's not necessary, of course. You can still sit, you know, in the nosebleed section for $261. What do you think, Jeff?
Johnny, you're on fire today. You are just jabbing and moving.
No, I'm not trying to jab. I'm on Ticketmaster.
Oh, I know. I hear you loud and clear. But okay, we're joking and having a good time here, folks. I enjoy this banner, but we started talking about you cannot watch it anywhere in the country or just Chicago.
Man,
I know, Conrad.
Is this your first time hearing the word blackout?
Is it a blackout in Chicago or other places? I know you're irritated with me, Conrad.
It's a blackout in Chicago. They're blacking the. Is this one?
No,
Ticket sales are not working anymore for
And
WWE, Jeff.
they just want to sell tickets. That's what they. I know you're looking at, Mike. We're having fun.
Something's wrong with it. It's not working.
Folks in the chat, Coach Keith, you're late. Conrad is ornery. I think he's going to make me run wind sprints or maybe do touch and goes. I'm just not following in, Coach. He's just irritated with me.
Let me start over. I want to make sure that, because I've just thrown Jeff the ultimate curveball here today.
When you
Elimination watch parties in the Chicago area are also being blocked due to WWE's new blackout rules in an effort to increase ticket sales. That's from Fightful. Meltzer sources claim the blackouts are due to low ticket sales. WWE wants people to experience the events live, no matter the cost. So here we are, as you and I are recording, 5 days away, as folks are listening, 4 days away from a monster pay-per-view at the United Center. Yes, the same United Center that AEW sold out lickety-split the minute they announced that, well, they didn't even announce that Punk was coming, but Punk's debut made an immediate sellout. Now, I'm not suggesting that AEW was hotter then than WWE is now. I'm not even suggesting that it was all based on Punk then and it's not now. I'm saying the ticket disparity is unbelievable, and it is the talk of wrestling right now.
Yeah.
WrestleMania ticket sales were discounted by 25%. So if you bought your tickets the day they went on sale, the WWE and TKO have effectively said, nope, we're going to give those people who aren't as loyal as you a 25% discount. We got to fill these seats. And it made no difference, Jeff.
Oh, boy.
No additional tickets were sold. No significant spike. I'm not saying no tickets, but no significant spike existed as a result of this discount. Now, that was WrestleMania. A lot of us thought, well, it's a stadium back-to-back in Las Vegas for the second year, but Chicago will be different. It's United Center, not a stadium, and it's freaking Chicago. This is the wrestling town for WWE. CM Punk is going to be here in a big way. This is a no-brainer. Until 4 tickets cost what Derek Zoo paid for a brand new car. So, we got to figure something out here, Jeff. What do you make of this blackout that has become, I guess, common for WWE now?
Well, if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, Conrad, it's a fudging duck. Wouldn't you say? I mean, when you were kind of rattling off and having fun with it, but when I said it's sold out, no, sir, it's not sold out. That's Chicago. I don't know, but I think Chicago market takes 4 events a year, 3 events a year.
Like, seriously, I don't mean to cut you off, but you were with WWE starting back in '93, so you know their loops and their towns.
It is numero.
Hang on. As a performer, I know you know what towns you like to work in and where your payoffs were better, but you actually worked behind the scenes as far as identifying for house shows and live events. So the particular data on the different major markets in the United States, I would say, as good as almost anyone in the business. Now, there may be a handful of people who do it full time who know it better, but I'm just trying to contextualize so our listener base understands when I'm asking Jeff this question. I'm not just asking him as the guy who used to fall down for a living, but a guy who actually did all of this behind the scenes with the live events. So he has to be familiar with the data. If we were to rank WWE towns through a letter grade like we got in school, would this be an F town? Would it be a D town? Based on letters we got in school, grades we got in school, what would Chicago be for WWE?
Out of every market in the, not just United States, not just North America, but on a global scale, that includes a lot of different towns. Chicago is number 2 But there is, and look, TKO again. I don't ever want to profess to know how they view things, but from a wrestling perspective, New York, number one market, Chicago, number two. I think you can almost get debatable. Boston, LA, back in the day, West Coast was ebbed and flowed, not as strong. And you can really get into all kinds of discussion. Cleveland was a big market, but it can only take this amount of year. We could go on and on. Philly, wait, you're leaving Philly out. Yeah, but you got to be careful about Philly. It's a sports town, and, the Flyers and the Sixers and the this and that. Oh, wait. Well, that venue, okay, there's not really a big, because then you start getting into, okay, United Center. That's where, Conrad, man, you caught me for such a loop, because you've got Allstate Arena. That's the old Rosemont Horizon. That was all kinds of stuff is taken in that building. But I'll tell you one thing. I believe Stone Cold, they should maybe, I hope he's got a plaque in that building. But anyway, Rosemont, and then Chicago came on the horizon, and we all know that history. But WWE was, I think, the first wrestling event in there in SummerSlam '94.
Yep.
But Chicago, Conrad, because you're pulling on these PLEs, Chicago is the Midwest. It's so centrally located. You get St. Louis, Cleveland, Detroit, Milwaukee. You get, that area is, damn, Conrad.
I'm just saying the wrestling audience is there, Jeff. Like, I refuse to believe for a second. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but the wrestling audience is in Cook County. It is massively within a 50-mile range. It's the numbers start really gelling together when you take in a 3-hour drive, and that's nothing for a PLA drive. Damn, Conrad.
I think that
they're voting with their wallet, as Conrad would say.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's not as if there's no interest in WWE.
Not at all.
Like, there is mega interest in WWE. So I don't want anyone to misquote us. And we're not suggesting that there's another company hotter than WWE. We're suggesting this damn thing should have been sold out a long time ago. Like the product is hot enough to sell this out. There are enough fans in that area to sell this out. So it's not like, hey, they picked the wrong town. They didn't pick the wrong town. And it's not that the product's not hot enough. Go ahead.
And I'll say, like, oh, no, Elimination Chamber in and of itself is a gimmick. I think you told me last year, wasn't that the Toronto one? Anyway.
Yeah. That's where The Rock came back last year and Cena turned heel.
But the cage elimination, that format sells itself in so many ways. They got, I'm sure, a massive amount of star power. Because, Conrad, and here's where I'm going to kind of way throw it out on the table, is that I have asked myself, but I really have tried to say, you know what, Jeff, these ticket prices, TKO knows more than you do.
I said the same thing.
Like they're doing this for a reason. They've got a strategy. They're not going to outprice the market. They're going to ebb and flow. They're going to do this, they're going to do that. Yes, they probably want empty seats. I hadn't got to that. That's okay if it's a sellout. That's the 4-letter word within TK's offices. That means they didn't charge enough prices on this event. Are they trying to gather data and saying, you know what, on this Chicago event, we pushed the envelope too far. We got to come back. We priced it. We left. We were we squeezed it just a little bit too much. Maybe that's the strategy. But to me, we're saying that creative is there because it's a elimination chamber. The market is there. The talent is there. What else? Big gulps on sale. You can buy a lot of big gulps for $5,000. So what else can it be, Conrad?
That's it. It's got to be pricing. And to be clear, because I know someone is going to remember this, if you'll recall, why did The Rock come back last year at Elimination Chamber? Why did he say Ari called? He said, hey, ticket sales were soft. We got to get something in here. They're not moving as fast. As a reminder, they had 38,493 people at the Rogers Center last year. So I know the narrative has been, oh, they called Rock to get some ticket sales. And I hear you. That's the story that we all heard, and that was what was said. That event last year, the Elimination Chamber, is the highest grossing WWE event ever held in Canada. I want to repeat that. That's not just the biggest Elimination Chamber. That's not just the biggest PLE. I'm saying that's bigger than the WrestleManias that have been held in Canada. The highest grossing WWE event ever in the history of Canada. It's a huge record that they set last year. And I know the biggest portion of that is pricing. But my question now is, they've already peeled back 25%, Jeff, with these WrestleMania discounted tickets, and it seemingly didn't make a big difference. Well, I know who does make a big difference, and that's our friends at Stopbox. All right, guys, listen up. Let's be real. Owning a handgun for self-defense comes with serious responsibility. You need it secure, but also accessible when it matters most. Too often, that means choosing between locking it away or leaving it out, which means you've left it vulnerable to kids, guests, or intruders. That's the problem Stopbox USA set out to solve, and I think they nailed it with the Stopbox Pro. It's 100% mechanical, keyless, battery-free lockbox that gives you instant controlled access to your firearm with no electronics, no keys, and no codes required. That's right, no keys, no codes, no apps. Just a patented 5-button locking system that responds only to your unique input. It's fast, intuitive, and built for muscle memory. So you're not thinking, you're reacting. And when seconds matter, that makes all the difference. With the Stopbox Pro, you don't have to trade safety for speed or peace of mind for readiness. Your firearm will stay secure, but always within reach. And you don't have to worry about tariffs. Everything's sourced right here in the USA. And as a matter of fact, the Stopbox Pro is even TSA compliant. And right now, for a limited time, our listeners can get 10% off at Stopbox when you use the code Jarrett10 at checkout. Head on over to StopboxUSA.com and use the code Jarrett10 for 10% off your entire order. After you purchase, they're going to ask you how you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. So, Jeff, let's talk about the WrestleMania discount. You know, the idea is, and Meltzer was even quoted as saying this. Let me find the exact quote. Now, the one thing about Mania is they did that 25% off weekend, and that didn't even move tickets. Even at 25% off, those are high tickets. They took 25% away, and they didn't move any. They've gotten carried away with ticket prices because of what they can charge for UFC, and TKO's going, look what we can charge for UFC, but it's just a different audience and a different mentality. And I got to tell you, I know that you at different times don't always agree with Dave Meltzer. I get that. Story for another day. But in my mind, Meltzer's nailing this. The UFC can command these crazy ticket prices, but that's not WWE's audience. Respectfully, UFC is going to skew to an audience that is more male, that would carry a higher CPM. It's probably better economical, more economic, socioeconomically strong graphics, or demographics rather. I don't think they're ever going to achieve, if that really is the goal, and that is the way it reads to me. WWE ticket sales on average are never going to rival UFC. I'm not saying they can't for Rumble or SummerSlam or WrestleMania, but I don't think they can treat, like, every UFC carries a premium, and there are super shows. But if that's the angle, that explains how we got in this mess. What do you make of it if it's not that?
Before you get mad at me, and I'm the network where the doc's airing next week, Conrad, they're texting me. They need a spot, all that. Can you real briefly, because I thought I heard what you said from Meltzer, read that quote again. Don't get on me.
Now, the one thing about Mania is they did that 25% off weekend and they didn't move tickets. Even at 25% off, those are high tickets. They took 25% off and they didn't move any. They got carried away with ticket prices because of what they could charge for UFCs, and TKO's going, look what we can charge for UFC, but it's just a different audience and a different mentality.
I'm curious if that's how Ari views it, but if he does, old Toby Keith line from Double J, June 19th, 2002. Hey, Toby, got any advice for me? Yeah, kid. Here's exactly what you need to go by until you shut the doors. Know your audience and earn them one at a time. The chairman may get knocked for a lot of things, and he may have been quirky or this or that, but you cannot deny the success. You cannot deny the longevity. He is a generational, his old man did it. At the end of the day, when you are a promoter, not a talent, not a Kerwin, not a producer, not a director, when your freaking money is on the line, you know, or you better, but you do if you're in it long enough, who walks through the door, who controls the pocketbook, all kind of the fundamentals. And I get it that they may look at it, if they do, that TKO says, oh, I've got 2 live event companies. No, matter of fact, I got PBR. That's another 3rd live event company. If they think the UFC and WWE are essentially the same type fan, boy, oh boy. Just because, an 8-year-old kid is not going to ask mommy to stay up. Can I watch wrestling tonight? No. Well, can we go? Yes, that's for your birthday. It is a 3-generational and always has been and always will be. Only when wrestling gets hot does everybody dial in and say, oh my God, look at the 18 to 34. That only is the icing on the cake. It's not the steak. It's not the potatoes. It's not the veggies. It's not your bottled water. It is not. You absolutely better worry about male and female 18 to 49. I'm throwing demos out there, but it is the old tried and truism, Conrad, and you may chuckle at this, is that my grandmother would always look at this kind of set of circumstances. She loved young baby faces, and she always wanted that guy on top. But the overturn of young baby faces to try to get over, because if you have young baby faces, the girls start coming because they like, oh wow, okay, I want to see these guys, these wrestle. If the girls start coming, then the boys follow. Who's bringing both of them? The parents. And there's always the crazy uncle that brings the family. It's grandpa grew up on it, 3rd generation. It's grandma who used to sit in front of the TV. I'm not going this week. I'm not going this week. Son of a bitch. That son of a gun screwed my favorite guy. I'm going down and watching that. Now that's old school, but generationally speaking, it is a 3-generation family form of entertainment that is the nucleus of this business and has been for years and years and years and years. Boxing, MMA, it's just not. It's 2 different things. I love the idea of running the back end, same legal, same accounting, all the efficiencies that come along with it. You market differently, you produce differently. It is conceptually, it's a different business. Very interesting.
I can't wait to see how this shakes out. I do feel like, you and I at different times through our shows through the years, we've talked about a phrase that I know you like whenever I bring up consumer confidence. And I've said that, once upon a time, I felt like TNA sort of lost some consumer confidence and people stopped being willing to give them a shot. And I think that's happened with a lot of promotions through the years. I feel like it happened with WCW fans in the year 2000. And it's not uncommon, you have to win those fans back.
WWF in the 90s, early 90s.
Exactly. I mean, over and over. And I'm wondering right now, have they lost a little bit of consumer confidence? Not in terms of, hey, I'm not going to watch the product. They're going to continue to watch the product, but will they continue to pay for the product? And I wonder, have they stretched it too far? We're going to see, because the idea that a 25% discount doesn't get them moving, I think, is a bit of a shock. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how UFC has changed as well. But you had something
real quick before you get in there. Just a question, because I always like to pick your brain. You know how much I value, seriously, and others do too. You undersell yourself. But what do you think is more, I'll call it shocking, that's too dramatic. What's more surprising to you? Vegas and the discount didn't move any tickets, or Chicago not sold out? Which one, and we're just spitballing here, but which one surprises you more?
The Vegas thing was not a shock. You and I called that last year. I feel like there's so many people who go back to they count WrestleMania as one of their vacations every year. And a lot of people, I know some people do over and over, and I get that. But I feel like the majority of people, if they're going to have to fly and book a hotel room and all that, they like to switch it up. Last year we went to Mexico. This year we're going to Aruba. The idea that we're going back to the exact same place we did last year, where respectfully, they did not finish on a strong note. The whole Travis Scott taking 8 minutes to get to the ring, they were thinking they were going to show up and The Rock was going to be there or Austin's going to be there. And maybe Travis Scott is going to do something, but literally it took forever and nothing happened. There was no payoff. And I think it's almost a case of fool me once, fool me twice. At the exact same time, we're meeting even higher prices and nothing has really changed in the American economy. I feel like we've been a country of the haves and the have-nots for a little bit. And if we're going to stretch and families are already feeling the pinch, do we want to spend that extra cash to do something we've already done? For a lot of people, going to a WrestleMania is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But it's not once in a lifetime if it's the same thing we did last year, except more expensive this year, where we left feeling disappointed last year. And for that reason, I say I'm more shocked that Chicago hasn't sold out. But you and I have agreed that on some level, WWE does not value, well, specifically TKO, no longer values sellouts. It's almost a sign that we left money on the table. But the idea that you and I could go get a front row seat for an elimination chamber 4 days before the event, I don't know. It's a little interesting to me. Yeah. Maybe we've priced ourselves out of the market.
Yeah, that's why I'd love to kind of know what the ATP is for Vegas. Like when they went on sale, what is the average ticket price? Multiply that by 4 and then take your kind of the basic analytic of 4 flights, 4 hotel rooms. Like what are you biting off for an average Mania consumer? That to me is where and I always reference Toby, but there's so many. Well, Live Nation, all the different deals. Like whatever event there is, you got to have an affordable ticket just for brand equity. I think, I don't know. Does TKO not believe in that philosophy? I don't know. It's interesting. Really,
it will be interesting. I think Ari, or maybe it was Shapiro. Maybe it was Shapiro. Had done an interview in the last 18 months or so where he talked about how Vince was really trying to cater to families. It was almost in a way where it's like, but we're not. That's not our business model. And I think that's being borrowed. That's how you read it too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's being borrowed from a UFC line of thinking. And there was a big interview from Ronda Rousey this last week that I think shed a lot of light on that. And I want to talk about that. But first, I want to take a minute and brag about our friends at Mars Men. All right, by now you know that old Double J is looking better than ever, and a lot of that is because he realized his body's changing, and maybe it feels like yours is too. I know when I hit my mid-30s, it felt like all of a sudden everything was a little harder. Maybe I slowed down a little bit. It felt like I was moving through mud. If you're looking for that New Year's reset button like I was, I can't recommend Mars Men enough. It's going to help your body unlock usable testosterone so you can feel like yourself again. You see, here's what I've learned. Our bodies make testosterone, but a lot of it gets locked up and then it can't be used. It turns out there's this protein called SHBG, and it basically handcuffs your testosterone. So even if your body is making testosterone, SHBG locks it up so you can't access it. It's like having money in the bank, but your debit card doesn't work. That's exactly what's happening to your testosterone right now. And Mars Men is designed to help free that locked testosterone so your body can finally use it. They do this with no synthetics, no needles, just real ingredients that help optimize energy, focus, and strength. You're absolutely going to love using Mars Men. You'll feel physically stronger. You'll have more consistent natural energy. And I want to be clear, not like drinking a cup of coffee. This is more like a steadier sense of drive throughout the day. It also, most importantly, supports healthy T levels, energy, and stamina. It does all of this with 8 natural, clinically dosed ingredients. It's all made here in the USA. It's third-party tested, and there's even a 90-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Here's the worst case. You don't absolutely love it, and you get your money back. But over 91% of users report higher energy levels. Thousands of guys are feeling incredible results. Just check out the reviews on the website and see for yourself. For a limited time, our listeners can get 50% off for life, plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. It's a perfect way to kick off the new year. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts at checkout. After you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. So, Jeff, I teased a minute ago, talking about this Ronda Rousey quote. I don't know if you saw this, but it's been made official. Ronda Rousey is going to be fighting Gina Carano. Now, for longtime MMA fans like myself, you're going to say to yourself, this sounds like it would have been like a dream super fight about 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. And you would be correct. Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano is finally happening in the year of our Lord 2026, May 16th at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood, California. And as if that's not enough, it's happening on Netflix. Yes, the same Netflix that has a huge deal with WWE, well, TKO, for WWE Monday Night Raw, and of course, internationally, the pay-per-views. So I know what you're thinking to yourself. Well, Gina Carano, huge MMA star, and then went on to star in a bunch of movies. And Ronda Rousey, one of the most influential fighters in UFC history, and it's on Netflix. Well, certainly this is a TKO-produced fight. Incorrect. Jake Paul and MVP Promotions are the promoters. Now, that wasn't the original plan. Ronda Rousey was a guest on Jim Rome's radio show last week, and he actually got her to talk about this. Originally, I wanted to do it for New Year's, and I went to Dana, and I was like, you always say I'm the best fighter you've ever worked with. Reward me for it. Don't punish me for being easy to work with. Give me the best deal you've ever given anybody. He's like, all right, I'm going to go back and get you the best deal I ever had, end quote. He came back and he literally brought me a deal where I would make more pay-per-view buy than anybody in history. If I hit my historical numbers, which I know I would have been able to exceed, I would have made as much as I did in my entire career. I was like, hell yeah, Dana, high five, thanks. But Gina needed more time. It happened to go to the other side when the ESPN deal and the pay-per-view model would be ending and they would be going to streaming. They're now a publicly traded company. How do I put it? They don't want to set a precedent of giving me the guaranteed money that I deserve, because once I raise that tide, it lifts all the boats. They just made a $7.7 billion deal at Paramount. It's in their best interest to not put on the best fights possible and spend as little money as possible so they can keep it. Dana is now legally obligated to maximize shareholder value. It's not about proving the concept of fighting and putting on the best fights possible and proving that this is a sport to be taken seriously. Now that they've sold the company, it's kind of out of Dana's hands, unfortunately. Now it's falling on to Hunter Campbell and the UFC Corp, where they don't care about putting on the best fights possible. They care about putting on the most cost-effective fights possible. It no longer made sense for me to go over there because they didn't want to pay us the money we deserve, because then for the rest of time of the deal, they're going to have to pay everybody else more. So I decided to look elsewhere. There was a UFC over the weekend too, Jeff, and Dana White sort of addressed this, and he said, hey, me and Gina are good, and I have been talking to Ronda for a while, and we're still friends, but I wish them well. I think Ronda has hit the nail on the head, and it makes me wonder, boy, are there those in WWE who feel the same way, that it's not really in our hands anymore. These decisions are being made for us. What do you make of this from Ronda?
When is well, see, I've got so many things running through my mind in that Jake Paul's brother is a top star in TKO.
Yes.
Which, and to me, it kind of, I don't say complicates, but is another whole kind of layer inside of all this. But, and I've said it many times that when one example is TKO is not going to run house shows anymore. Oh, that's bad. You know what? There is a mountain of opportunity for folks that want to put together professional wrestling. And I'm not saying, but the digital world, but go run the C&D markets. They're not going there. They've made it abundantly clear there's nothing going there. But so in this opportunity on Netflix, and TKO, as you just said, had that massive deal. And now Paul and the Paul brother and the promotion company, and they're putting this on. And I don't know the last time Ronda fought pay-per-view. It feels a little bit aged out, but obviously there's a lot of money on the table. But I'm circling along the way because just kind of real-time process and all this is that Netflix, Paramount, all the fixed revenue, are we about to see in the next 12 to 24 months radical budget cuts?
Why do you think AJ's leaving WWE?
I mean, it's like, but I go back to, and I get you've got to watch the P&L. Me and you, we're probably some of our listeners like, okay, guys, we get it. But no, it's business. But there comes a point, if I'm the executive that wrote the check to TKO, either on the Paramount side or the Netflix side, I wrote the check with an expectation that I bought the product here and bought the product here. And now it's very obvious we're not getting the best fights, and we're not getting, like, is the exit strategy already in place for TKO for UFC in WWE? I mean, that's kind of where my brain went. Is the exit strategy already in place because they're not overly concerned about making their two biggest partners satisfied? Well,
they've never had a reason to, though, have they? I mean,
we're both kind of just throwing stuff back and forth, but Ronda, that's what I was going to is, how long has it been since Ronda fought?
I'm not sure, but what I was referencing was
years.
No, I'm saying, like, not that. It wasn't that long ago. I'm going to guess 7 years ago, maybe less than that, where, man, the entire wrestling world was doing cartwheels. Can you believe WWE got this mountain of cash from Fox? Oh my God, look at this record money from Fox. Do you hear that renewal in the distance? I don't.
Yeah, that's
so I'm just saying, I don't know that WWE has suffered a real consequence from not delivering.
Yeah.
They have a wake of deals where the other party was not happy. I mean, when you've got people at the very tippy top of the Fox network standing on a stage with a live microphone saying the ROI wasn't there, those are conversations that are said privately behind closed doors. But to say them into a microphone in front of an audience, to me, feels like, boy, there was not just ROI there, but there was some hurt feelings left there too.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, will this be the contract that they suffer the consequence for the next one, or do they have one more in them? Because I do feel like what you're saying is spot on. The next step is to package this thing up and sell it. And we all have our lines of thinking of who the potential buyers could be there. But will that happen before the end of this contract? Or will they try to get one more bump, max out the value, and then sell, Jeff?
But who is that? I mean, the players in the Paramount on one side's bidding for WBD. I'm not going into that, but the two biggest media players are Paramount and Netflix. Like, they're bigger than Fox. I mean, right? I mean, where do you go from here? Boy, fun chat today. But, like, where do you go from here? All money. I mean, but my goodness. But back to the Ronda fight. Are they asking for that much? Are you reading through the tea leaves? Are Ronda and Gina, are they asking for too much? And here's another thing, Conrad.
What is too much though?
And you can't really bake in bonuses on pay-per-view buys because it don't exist.
Well, I think what Rhonda was laying out in the quote, I if I'm honest with you, I thought she laid it out beautifully. If you know that your top line is fixed, there's no incentive for you to build the biggest fight ever because you won't financially participate.
That's right.
So instead, if you're really trying to deliver record profits, it doesn't matter if it's all that compelling. I'm saying all that to say, is that where we are with WWE right now? Meaning last year, the narrative that Rock looked right down the barrel of a lens and said is, yeah, the top of TKO called and said, Rock, we need help moving some tickets with this event. There were 38,000 people there, and it was the most highest grossing WWE event in Canadian history. It set a financial record. So maybe they didn't sell all the tickets, but they set a financial record. And Jeff, as a business owner, if you could be sold out 100% capacity, total utilization, or you could set an all-time gate record, which one would you pick?
I'll take the gate record.
So I'm just saying, like, this is a great thing for WWE, but I'm wondering, are we reaching a tipping point where we've set a bad precedent and now consumer interest wanes? I can tell you, I do not regularly watch the UFC anymore. There was once upon a time I attended no less than 4 a year, and I would fly to Vegas to do this. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not as interested. It's not as compelling. I'm what you would call a casual UFC fan at this point. And I feel like that there are a lot of me on the WWE side of things right now. Mm-hmm. Don't you?
Well, and I also, like, when you're talking about the tipping point, and this is all so creative, is so subjective. I don't think numbers, yeah, you can kind of get in because then you're getting into analysts, and there's quite a bit of subjective that too is. But like when you talk about tipping points, I kind of look at in the last 3 to 5 years, Logan Paul, Bad Bunny, Jelly Roll, we've celebrityed it up. Like Jelly Roll is one of the hottest artists in the country. Bad Bunny, maybe arguably in the world. Logan's full-time roster member, one of the top streamers. I mean, the celebrity, like, and I'm talking about from a creative, Austin, Rock, like pulling out legends from the past to give a shout. Like, where do they go for, in case of emergency, break glass?
It's got to be what you just said. It's got to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, which is why I think they were making overtures about getting him back. But it's like, yeah, no disrespect to Steve, but I mean, it's been 25 years since he was at full time in ring or close.
That's kind of what I'm saying is, and he did that thing in Dallas. I remember talking to him before he went out. That match in Dallas when Cody re-debuted, my goodness, that's big, man. With KO.
No, it was awesome. I think, respectfully, I don't think they have to break the glass. I think they need to stop trying to break the bank.
I got you, and I'm not arguing with that at all. Yeah. But I jumped over into creative, but what we're discussing here, and we said it, Conrad, about a year ago. Boy, it's going to get real interesting how things go because, and we talked about it 6 months ago, and then just at the end of the year when the Cena situation and all this.
You and I thought they'd get through WrestleMania and look around and say, "What now?" And it turns out we were off. We thought it would take longer.
We do. And I pushed it a little bit past because I thought they'd have the tailwind of Mania. And they might, but.
Oh, let's talk about this. Obviously, we're both big Stone Cold fans. We know what a big star he is. I mean, biggest star in the history of the business. Nobody's arguing. Roll Tide. My question is, if they said, "Hey, guys, he's at Elimination Chamber," does that change that people will or won't want to pay the ticket price? I don't know that it does. I think the roster's loaded enough that
I agree.
You don't have an attraction problem. It's a, hey, man, you can't get blood from a stone. There's only so much you can get here. And I think we've gone past that point.
Sorry.
Well, you know what you need. You need to get up. And if you're thinking about getting up, I'm thinking about Blue Chew. Fellas, you already know what time it is. It's time to level up, and Blue Chew just dropped something crazy. I'm talking next level championship gold-plated belt energy. You know the deal. Blue Chew Gold. It's the newest innovation from the #1 chewable ED brand, but this ain't your grandpa's little blue pill. This is the 4-in-1 beast that's setting the gold standard for performance. We're talking 2 ingredients for blood flow to keep that rocket pumping, mixed with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and the connection in your brain and body. Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue, and it works in as little as just 15 minutes. That means you can get it on quicker and stay in the game longer. We're talking elevation without hesitation. This is peak passion and peak performance in a single tablet. Forget Netflix and chill. This is Netflix and fill. Make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with the promo code MyWorld. That's promo code MyWorld. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. So, Jeff, you asked a moment ago before the break, hey, when is the last time that Ronda fought? And the answer is 10 years ago. It was December 30th, 2016. She lost to Nunes. So it's just over 9 years for her. Gina Carano's last fight, I believe, was in 2009. So it's been quite a while since these ladies have mixed it up. But I don't think that matters in the scheme of things. And I know people are going to jump all over me for that. But fights, Jake Paul, if nothing else, he's proven are an attraction. I mean, let's not forget, we just glossed over the fact that Mike Tyson is about to fight Floyd Mayweather in the Congo.
Yes.
And Manny Pacquiao is coming out of retirement. He's fighting in April. So we had like 3 of these, I guess I would call them like sideshow fights announced. And as much as, we all make fun of them and say, I'm never watching again. Guess what? It's on streaming and I'm going to watch it.
I want to watch it.
I do think the pay-per-view model has eroded a little bit, but I think it's perfect for big streaming solutions. If you're trying to, see Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul, or, Roy Jones Jr. versus Mike Tyson was a pay-per-view, but it would have done phenomenally well on streaming as well. So
well on pay-per-view.
I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm going to be watching Rousey and Carano, and I'm looking forward to it. But I think it's interesting that it's happening on a platform that does business with TKO, but outside of TKO. And it's not because Ronda is cross with Dana or because Gina is cross with Dana. It's because Dana has a set business model now, where once upon a time,
just business.
Dana used to go on TV and do interviews for years and years and years and say that boxing killed itself because there was no like unified body. And so none of the best fights ever happened. In boxing, you had a lot of dream fights because nobody wanted to lose any money. And he was talking about one promoter working with another promoter. Well, what we've got now is the dynamic has changed so much that now the sole promoter, which he thought was the solution, is also not incentivized to give you the dream fights. And he used to complain about this, but for a different reason. And now it's his new reality. It's interesting. And I think that applies to WWE. I don't think, if AJ Styles is leaving, and that is the report we heard weeks ago, I don't know that it was totally his idea. Why would you schedule AJ's last match to be in Saudi Arabia? Now, this may all age poorly because tonight is a tribute to AJ in Atlanta, but they've also announced that Brock Lesnar was going to be here. So maybe we're setting some sort of angle up or whatever, but the economics of TKO have changed drastically, not just in WWE.
Conrad, I've referenced, and look at, I don't even know if you wanted me to respond there, but things have changed. And on this podcast, I've referenced multiple times that my dad wrote Bob Carter a letter, trying the title of the letter. God, I'd give anything of it. The Mind of a Wrestler. And over the weekend, we were having different conversations and, wrestling offices, and the real first wrestling office that I went to was at my dad's house over in his office and sit there in those chairs and wrestling magazines on the table and National Geographic stacks on the table and just the different scenery that I would listen to him on the phone and all that kind of stuff. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard the Jerry Jarrett speech on, because that was in the era of late 80s when I don't know if you know, kind of, it used to be, was it 52, 104, 156? What kind of deal did you get at WCW? Guaranteed money, guaranteed money, guaranteed money, guaranteed money. And Jerry Jarrett was vehemently opposed to that. Like, you just, the mind of a wrestler, they have to be incentivized to step up to the plate every night and do their best and perform, because if they put butts in seats, they need to be rewarded. But if they don't, then the economics and the emotional component of our industry has gone away. But basically, the incentive to perform well. If you don't have the incentive, then you're going out on some level, going through the motions, getting injured. Things just kind of go downhill from there. And I know this is a much bigger, and I'm not saying that you can't have guaranteed money, but built-in incentives. And if there's X amount of streams, you know, something to motivate the guys. But I don't know, Connie. Very, 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 very interesting. We said it 12 months ago. Next 12 months is going to be interesting. I think we're going to be saying the same thing, because I still say it's hard to follow Elvis. John Cena was the Elvis around those folks for 20 years.
Trust me, folks. Jeff knows a thing or two about Elvis.
Yep.
Jeff, I want to ask you. You said something yesterday. We were spending some time together, and we wound up in the car for a bit. And you said something, and when we finished the conversation, I circled back around and I said, you know, I've never heard it phrased that way. But you talked about the sense of community and closeness and almost team spirit that exists in a locker room when things are down, and then how that dynamic changes when success comes to the territory. Can you sort of lay that out for everybody?
Wow, that must have struck you. And you got to have, you've got to experience. You got to have kind of a different perspective. You got to have your mouth shut and ears open, and certainly your eyes open, and just kind of watch how people navigate. And I don't think it's just in the wrestling industry, but I have just kind of seen and witnessed it. When territories are down and you're not putting butts in seats, as our friend Shivani says, but when things aren't drawing or ratings are maybe down, then there is kind of a sense of, hey, man, your name's on the marquee out there. Well, your name's in the program guide. You're part of this process, and we're not producing. So not a lot of egos can get involved, because when you know, houses are down, ratings are down, merchandise is down, whatever it may be. So there is kind of a sense of, man, we better get aligned, get on the same page. You still got to have that competitive spirit, but we got to start rowing in the right direction to get this thing up. And when it starts coming up, that's when everybody starts looking through the lens of only themselves. And, oh boy, we're up. Well, of course it's me. Well, we're up. Oh, yeah, I did this. It's the ego that just completely overrides it. And so the more it grows, the more successful it gets, then the more credit individuals start taking for themselves. And then the next thing you know, one ego bumps into another ego, and then a third ego, and maybe a fourth ego. And then you have a complete disaster on your hand if not run right. Coaches will tell you that, business folks will tell you that, but I've just seen it in, wrestling, and, you get up and it can, they say cut the cancer out. And I've heard ball coaches say that before, on certain things that you just, and, Jim Collins's book, get the right people on the bus in the right seats, at the right time and all that kind of stuff. But he also goes into, you got to get the wrong people off because it can really take things down. But I've just, the wrestling industry is that way. The more successful, the more headaches you have.
I thought that was fascinating, because it does make sense when you hear guys talk about ECW. They talk about the closeness of the locker room and how everybody was on the same page and they were all fighting for the company and fighting to grow, and they operated with a chip on their shoulder. And Paul Heyman certainly tried to cultivate that with like his barely legal speech, F you, we're right. F you, you're wrong. This is the dance. This is pay-per-view. He's rallying the troops together. And then you go to the other side when WCW is the number one company in the world and everybody is frustrated. And Eric Bischoff has to hold a meeting that doesn't sound like, rah, team spirit. F you, we're right. F you, you're wrong. No, Eric Bischoff holds a meeting and says, hey, anybody who wants their release, let me know now and you can leave. And then Raven's hand goes up. Like, this is the number one company in the world. Get me out of here. Can't wait to leave. Meanwhile, our paychecks may bounce, but by God, we're going to stick it up their rear end tonight. It's amazing. It never clicked for me until you said it. And I thought, damn, maybe that's some of what we've seen happening in more modern wrestling too. When you're the little engine that could, like, let's even take WWE. Because when I say that, a lot of people will think I'm talking about TNA or AEW. But I think the locker room and the fans and everybody sort of probably knowingly or unknowingly rallied around Triple H when Vince McMahon was adiosed from WWE. Like back in the summer of 2022 or whatever it was, when Triple H was all of a sudden back and he's standing in the aisleway and he's got the headset on and you can see like the ring in front of him. And it was a glory shot of him like, oh, I'm taking over the reins of WWE. I think fans were really excited about it and behind it. But now that they're enjoying more success than ever, I think the worm has turned. And it never really clicked for me until you said it yesterday.
Here's a set of circumstances, and a lot goes with it. I'm never going to undersell the NWO's impact on the industry, and the step before that with Nitro, and everything that goes with that. With that, so I don't want to. I'm putting that on the table first, but when you go from the steroid era and Hogan left and it was a real negative. And look, I didn't really understand it, but I knew the building side of the deal because my dad was in a little bit in the office, but I later learned so much more. And we had and I'm saying we at the time, WWF, you had, got to run the Garden 4 times a year, Nassau Coliseum, Meadowlands. I'm dating myself on calling the buildings. Chicago, Rosemont Horizon, Pittsburgh Civic Arena, Philly. We had these contracts that Vince was in as a company, battling the other side and knowing that business was down in 92 and then in 93. And it was called the New Generation. But when you kind of look at Shawn and Kevin and yes, Kevin is evil, and Scott, and kind of a nucleus of the New Generation, kind of how things went from, oh man, Chicago broke this number and is up a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. That was a sense of we've got to dig in, man. This has got to get going. This has got to get going. But those building blocks that satisfied, because if it wouldn't have been coming up, I think all of those markets would have said, nope, we're going to let WCW in here. If you can't run these shows. I mean, it was a real chess playing Vince went on behind the scenes. And then Eric put on Nitro and all this, but just kind of the building blocks that Eric did also of bringing Hulk on, bringing Savage, Scott, when all the building blocks, people, you never, drive by this beautiful house, you don't go, man, I'd love to see that foundation. Oh man, I wonder how the footers were really done perfect. You don't have good fitters. You don't have good building blocks. That bad boy isn't framed in well. That thing isn't drywalled up. The house doesn't stand. And it really, that to me is the grunt work and all that. Once things pop, NWO hit, all of a sudden Stone Cold hits. That's what they relish in the success. But all the building blocks And that's when I love the kind of the Heyman analogy that you brought together. That's the ebb and flow of this business in so many different ways. I mean, you could take every professional wrestling company that ebbed and flowed. That is kind of that is the cycle.
Well, I was fascinated when you said it, and it does make me wonder what's next for Vince, because if there is some sort of groundswell of support for Vince, and I've seen more and more of that, his accuser in the civil matter he's been dealing with for the last couple of years made a public appearance last week. And in response to that, two things happened. We saw new footage released of Vince's crash, and we saw lots of debate about what really happened with Vince McMahon and whether or not he belongs back in WWE. I do want to talk about that, but first, we got to talk about what belongs in your dogs, and that's Better Wild. Man, I love my dog, and I know you love your dog, which is why I know your dog and you will love Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews. I have to admit, I did not know that my dogs licking their paws or scratching their ears were signs of allergies. Yeah, those aren't normal dog behaviors. It's like a cry for help that bad bacteria has taken over their little gut. It turns out like 90% of your dog's immune system lives in your gut. And just like us humans, we need probiotics, or you might call it good bacteria, to strengthen your gut health and calm down their little overactive immune systems. That's why the wife and I found and discovered and started using Better Wild Allergy Relief Soft Chews for our pups. These are supplements designed to support our pet's allergy defense system, and the way they do this is strengthening their digestion. I want you to know, first and foremost, these are the only chews with the Ancestral Advantage Wolf probiotics. These were derived from your dog's mighty ancestor, the doggone wolf. It's going to help restore a healthy balance of good bacteria in the gut. These Better Wild Allergy Relief Supplement chews really come with 4 key ingredients. Of course, you've got that wolf probiotic called the Ancestral Advantage, but you've also got L-Sacchii. That's a postbiotic derived from kimchi, and it's been clinically proven to reduce itchiness and redness in just 2 months with daily use. How about the colostrum, though? That's going to boost the immune function, fight off the inflammation, and last but certainly not least, the salmon oil to support both healthy skin and fur. My dogs are looking and feeling better than ever, and yours can be too, because Better Wild is committing to helping your dogs with science-backed, veterinarian-approved solutions that you can feel great about. And right now, Better Wild is offering our listeners up to 40% off your order at betterwild.com/myworld. That's betterwild.com/myworld for up to 40% off your order. betterwild.com/myworld. So, Jeff, we just saw last week for the first time the footage was released of Vince McMahon's car wreck. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I did. Little clips. I did.
Silva, do we have the footage that we can show? There you go. There's some stills. So the report is he was driving in excess of 100 miles an hour, and this was Vince McMahon's Bentley Continental GT. This is the V12 variant. So if you're keeping score at home, this is going to be in the neighborhood of 600 horsepower, I believe. So it is a very, very powerful luxury vehicle that is hundreds of thousands of dollars new, in excess of $300,000. And by the way, he looks just like my wife's new dog, Little Daddy, with that haircut, with all black and then the white splotch right on top. Some people would say he looks like Pepe Le Pew. That's not me. I wouldn't say that. I would almost say, if we could show him hanging out of the back of that Escalade again, Jeff, if this fellow was from Memphis, do you think he'd, I don't know.
Diamond Ring Cadillac Man, Sputnik McRow. Is that where you're going with that?
It's just like him. I mean, with that hairstyle.
Let me say, that bicep and that tricep, forearm, that ain't Sputnik, but yeah.
The haircut. Come on.
I'm with you.
I mean, that looks like Sputnik's uncle who the weights at.
God bless him.
So listen, it's a weird thing to see because he's just flying up behind this BMW and then bounces off the guardrail, and he can even be seen sort of chastising himself.
Oh, that's what I heard. The voiceover that I heard, he's so freaking mad at himself.
GD it, you stupid effing fool. Of course, he's saying the wrong words.
Yes,
to himself.
That's him.
Not because someone sneezed in a meeting, but because he ran up the back end of a BMW 100 miles an hour.
Sir, You were doing 115. Ah,
GD, stupid effing fool. He was explaining to the police that he was actually going to his granddaughter's birthday party, which I got to tell you, I think sounds awesome. I don't think most people think about Vince McMahon as, the dad or the grandpa, but I think sometimes we forget that he's not just this evil man you read about online or this bad guy character you see on TV. He's got a family and grandkids, and
he's doing 100 miles an hour. The cops can't catch him.
and the cops are like, as you saw in the photo, it feels like every damn airbag in the Bentley, went off.
Loaded.
And so he's, being tended to check on, hey, do you need anything? No, I'm fine. And he's explaining it's been a long time since he's driven this car. And I think a lot of people probably get to an age with their parents or their grandparents or an uncle or whatever. But they probably get to a place where like, hey, so-and-so, maybe you don't need to be driving anymore. Like I was talking to my attorney last week, and he says that his father-in-law is over 90 years old. And at 85, he was still driving and accidentally ran a red light. And they had to sit him down and say, hey, no more driving. Can't drive anymore. And apparently, old Paw took it well. But then they found out a couple of weeks ago, he hid an extra truck key. And he still drives whenever he wants to, by God. I don't know. The idea that we're seeing maybe Vince McMahon go through some of that aging process, it really, I don't know, caught me off guard for the first time. It's like, wow, Vince is human. But as a reminder, this irony isn't lost on me. The accident that we're finally seeing the footage of, that's the morning that Hulk Hogan passed.
Yeah.
Same morning. Isn't that wild?
It's bizarre. And here's him cussing himself out is, all right, kind of, I don't know if you know the story, but I'll tell you a quick one on Jerry Jarrett. Cause it's so, I don't know, a couple of years ago, whenever this was, I went out to his house and my dad, we talked about my cooking skills yesterday, but he got him this new griddle, like outside griddle. It's a grill, then a griddle. And, you can do hibachi, get the rice, but vegetables. So you can do kind of a hot hibachi. Burgers were on there. Great. We used it a couple of times. And I don't know if it was Father's Day or my birthday or occasion come around. He calls the day before, whatever. Hey, Jeff, you going to be home? Hey, this. And I'm like, okay, I got something. I want to bring it to you. Okay. I had no idea what he's talking about. So, hey, you going to be home? Yeah, Dad. I whatever. Come on, stop on by and all this. And Conrad, so there, and he pulls up and he backs up to the front door. And I'm like, okay. And he's got on the back, this big ass, and he went as usual, full blown. It's the big ass griddle and 2 butane tanks and all the fancy stuff and all this. And he comes up and, hey, man. Hey, Dad. He goes, look at this. He said, then he starts cussing. I'm so effing mad at myself. What is it? I said, oh, man, this is great. He said, yeah, it's the 2 tank. He put it over. But he continued to bounce back and forth that it's great. It's nice and this. I'm such a dumbass. What is it, Dad? He said, well, help me get it off. Okay, Dad. So we get it off. And he didn't have a big pickup truck, kind of the smaller one. We got it off. And I looked, and the griddle. So the griddle is a piece that you can take off and all that. So the griddle, it comes off, and I'm like, he goes, I know, son, I know. We'll figure it out. Either we'll get you another. I said, Dad, what happened? He said, well, I loaded this thing up back at the house, and damn it, I didn't tie it down. I said, well, that's okay. No, it ain't. So the very first curve, him leaving his neighborhood, I'm sure he's driving too fast, goes around the griddle pops off, skids down the road. He has to turn around and come back, get somebody to help him. They get it up there and put it on there. And Conrad, he put it back on there and drove to my house. But those kind of things are like, I'm not sure he was clearly thinking on how to transport this griddle to my house, but he's glad it's there. But I guess those things happen, Conrad. People will be laughing about us in a few years, I guess. But when I heard Vince cussing himself out, it took me right back to my dad going, oh, it's nice, Jeff. Damn, I'm a freaking idiot. What? Anyway, good stuff.
It is good stuff. I think a lot of people are curious about what happens next with Vince, and I don't know what to expect. I talked to somebody last week who says that Vince and Kevin Dunn and the rest of Vince's production crew and company are very busy working on stuff, but I haven't heard anything about projects. Have you?
No, 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 nothing. Not a word, which is interesting.
Now that we're hearing that his civil lawsuit appears to be headed to arbitration, if you could bet on this on Polymarket, I don't think you can right now. Would you bet that Vince would be back involved in a more formal capacity with WWE by next year's WrestleMania? Would you say yes or no by next year's WrestleMania?
And look, I have the dynamic between Ari and Vince, and we're just talking about like the cutting of the fixed income. How does that fit in there? Like, is Vince going to create more revenue for them? Like they maximize, so they got this deal and that deal. I don't think so. And so when I go down that road, that what we've previously talked about, this off and on through the whole podcast, I just don't see it happening. I always go to what is next for Vince. The folks, and there's a couple of guys in Nashville that are long-term execs, and guy in the healthcare field, guy in the boat business. There's a couple of different guys that have literally built multiple companies and sold them off. Like Vince built WWE and only sold one off, but there's a couple of guys that are around town that I know and I kind of studied that there's a guy they never get out of the game. That they're okay, we're starting something. I got a new kind of executive crew, this young guy, this. Like, I just don't, what is next for Vince? I don't think it's TKO, but he's not going to go away quietly.
Be interesting to see what's next. There was an interview done last week with Seth Rollins where he revealed that he actually went straight to Vince to ask if he could use the pedigree as his finisher in 2015. I bring that up because Seth was pointing out he asked Vince if he could do it, not Triple H. Quote, I was like, if I asked Triple H if I can use the pedigree, I feel like he's going to say no. He was the only person who's ever used it. So I was like, here's what I'll do. I'll ask Vince about it, and I know Vince will say yes just to spite Triple H. Triple H can't say nothing about it. It was a good idea. I was a bad guy. Hunter was my mentor. I was his protege. He wasn't wrestling. I was like, it's a good way to carry on the legacy of the move. And Vince okayed it. Whether he did it because he liked it or just to take a shot at his son-in-law, I don't know. But either way, it worked. And showing sort of the dynamic that may exist. And who knows if what Seth is saying is planting a seed, or I don't know. It was an interesting story and one that I thought was worth mentioning because that things like that happen and sometimes they mean something and sometimes they don't.
Well, and you can read so much into it. You got to know the dynamics, but at the end of the day, Vince was the decision maker then. So it was going to have to get on his desk. I just think as a talent, he probably was proactive and could have said in the meeting, hey, Vince, I want to run something by you. If you're okay with it, then I know I've got to have a conversation with Paul, but you're the decision maker. What do you think? I mean, there's so many, you can wordsmith that, and a lot of politics involved potentially.
Well, something there's not a lot of politics involved is your brand new figure. They're hand numbered. They're limited to 100. They're autographed by Double J. And you can pick up yours right now at prowrestlingmerch.com. Jeff, I got to see the prototype on your desk yesterday in person. And I got to tell you, I thought they did a fabulous job on the prototype, man. I mean, that's a really cool collectible that you've got. But I did notice that the black wasn't as black as it looks to be on the figure. And I know that's the cost of it being a prototype. But the idea that that's what they started with and it only gets better from there, I think you got something that's pretty cool for all pro wrestling fans, much less Double J fans. And I think this may be one of the first times that you've had a version represented of The Last Outlaw, right?
That's it. The Last Outlaw. It is the first. Big reason why they approached me, Shrunk 3D, said they did it, but my good buds at prowrestlingmerch.com, they just sent an email where, I think we're down to 30, but it's a cool thing because it is, you got to be a collector, and I get that, but you do it, I'll actually personalize it. The little nice stickers, I referenced that 1 through 100. It's a really cool collector. Yes, it is a collector. It's not an action figure. It is a true collector's item, but it's pretty cool signing it. So yeah, I'm pleasantly and we're trying to figure out what are the next ones we do. I don't know. 40 years of Jarrett, we got things as you are driving the ship on, Connie. We got some cool stuff coming up.
Go check it out right now. That's prowrestlingmerch.com. That's where you can pick up the new figure. There's only 100. Actually, that's 100 made. 15 are going to friends and family. So only 85 will be in the wild. And I know that inventory has sold fast. There's a handful still remaining. You can go pick yours up right now at prowrestlingmerch.com. So not only will it be one of the most rare Jeff Jarrett collectibles of all time, they're hand numbered, hand signed, and this is the first iteration ever of The Last Outlaw. So if you've been enjoying this last hurrah that Jeff has been on for the last few years with this Last Outlaw character, this is your first chance to celebrate it. Go grab yours right now before it's too late at prowrestlingmerch.com. And next Tuesday, Jeff, we're going to be doing something pretty special. We're going to be debuting that evening on CW there in Middle Tennessee and Nashville, your brand new documentary. And I thought next week we should probably show some stuff that wound up on the cutting room floor and have some of the talking heads who helped produce this thing and put it together. Just talk about your career and that day and just celebrate the documentary a little bit. So mark your calendars. That's what we're going to be doing next week here on My World. And I thought to get us ready for that big debut, which you'll be able to see right here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notification bell at myworldpod.com. I thought, hey, it makes sense for us to show that trailer and get you guys ready for next week's documentary. Again, it's going to air on the CW network in Middle Tennessee, but you'll also be able to see it right here on YouTube. This is going to be fun, Jeff. Tell me what you expect next week to be like. It's going to be kind of a big week for you.
Well, Conrad, you know better than anybody because you're the one, you're the damn driver of this thing. But no, how it all came together from the very beginning. Karen said one of her clips, and I almost could say double down that like she said, yeah, when we first started that, I had no idea what it was going to mean to Jeff. And I didn't either, really. But man, I got emotional through the whole thing. But Andy Gilley of the city of Hendersonville, a huge driver. We've talked about Pigfest and how that came about. That's really what pushed me over the edge. 4 nonprofits raised over $100,000. It's our our city's biggest real nonprofit drive of the year. We get to be a part of it. Music act the following night, and so the drone was out there flying. We got drone shots, and my man Robert Pick, and I'm going to try to twist his arm. The two guys that I'm going to try to twist their arm to get on here, they do not like to be in front of the camera, but Robert and then Kevin Sullivan, because Robert captured it with some other guys and Andy and his kind of vision for the show, and Dude White came together as a sponsor, just all the different things, Conrad. It turned out there was no script, there was no plan, but as things have kind of rolled out, the little half-hour doc that's put together that you can see, CW Network next Tuesday here locally in Nashville, but simultaneously we're going to air it on My World YouTube channel so folks can check it out. So we're excited. I am. The family is excited, and I appreciate you, Conrad, kind of being that driver behind the scenes, and kind of all fell in, man. So we are excited.
Well, we're excited to share the documentary trailer with you. We'll close with that and set your calendars next week right here on My World, something you've never seen before. We're going to be debuting some never before seen clips and have some backstage behind the scenes footage. And then next Tuesday night, set your clocks. It's coming to YouTube. It's coming to CW in Tennessee. It's Jeff Jarrett, the heart of a promoter.
Peace.
They say you can't ever go back home. But if you're from a place like Hendersonville, you really never leave. I've wrestled under bright lights in big arenas all over the world. But this is where it all started. Tennessee is where my grandmother first started. My dad built Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, and Evansville. You know, wrestling isn't just what the Jarretts do. It's who we are. Because people around here, they still believe in hard work and handshakes and second chances. They show up, cheer loud, and really let you know why this business matters. Yeah, so tonight, it's special. Not because it's one more match, it's because it's home. You know, if I've learned anything, then no matter how far you travel, how many miles you ride, how many arenas you step into, home is where the heart is.